All right, so let's start with my normal question, which is, what's your why for competing in HYROX? Like, what's the motivation behind it?
The motivation with HYROX is, I mean, originally I was a CrossFitter, and I enjoyed of the mad side of all the different things you had to train for to go and do CrossFit. I was always just a little bit better at doing the grunt workouts and the odd object carrying kind of stuff. So then when HYROX came about, they came and did the PFT at our gym, and I just thought, right, this sounds like a bit of me. Ended up um, doing pretty well. Won it in my gym, and they just said you're gonna have to sign up to it. Like, go do the pro in. I think it was the very first one they did in Birmingham. And I just loved it. I just enjoyed suffering, to be honest. It was very fun doing it with just fellow competitors who just, yeah, you're back and forward in racing. I just enjoy racing. I enjoy that feel like you're actually with other people who want to be there as well. So yeah, the why is just I just enjoy competing. I really enjoy, yeah, testing myself on that kind of stuff.
we I'm going to ask you about a few things that you've done that sort of allude to that you do enjoy suffering. But what is there? Why do you enjoy that? Is it the feeling that you're pushing yourself to your limits, you're exploring your limits? Is that it, or something else?
Um, I think just from growing up from like I've always been in sport. My mum and dad were very sporty when they were younger. And then as I started getting a bit older, I literally did every single sport you could think of. I think with my GCSEs in PE, you meant to pick 4 sports, but I could have picked between 10 sports to do where I would have got 100 marks. And I just enjoyed it all. I hated academics. I just wanted to be outside, kicking a football, playing rugby, or whatever it was. But then as I started getting a little bit older, into like 15, 16, when it kind of starts to get a bit serious around then, I was doing athletics and rugby. So I'd just been offered by Leicester Tigers to sign an academy deal with them, or I could have continued doing the athletics where I was a multi-eventer. So I kind of had the joke with my guys. I was like the original like hybrid person. Like when I was 15, you'd have to be able to throw a shot put, God knows how many meters, throw a discus, javelin, high jump, long jump, hurdles, 800 meters, 15. I did all the events, and I was never like the best at one of them. I usually came in the top five in most of them. I was probably a little bit better at like the field events with like the javelin and discus and stuff. So I went to English schools for, they used to do pentathlon back then. So at under 15s, it's 5 events. You did 80-meter hurdles, long jump, high jump, shot put, and 800 meters. And like I say, I would never win any of them, but I would always be in that kind of like top five. And that was probably like the start for me of kind of doing all round kind of training, because I had to be fit, I had to be fast, I had to be able to move far, I had to be powerful. Um, but rugby was probably the sport that I enjoyed the most at that time. So I ended up going down the rugby route. But I think with rugby being, it's an 80-minute game, I was a fly half centre. So again, I'd have to be fast, I'd have to be strong, I had to be fit. So it kind of like they both worked quite well together. I think if you were, let's say, a winger or a fullback, you probably maybe just had to be pretty fast and just have some good fitness. If you were a prop, you'd have to be extremely strong and just quite powerful. But then I was kind of like in that middle kind of area where you were fly off center. So it's almost like a center mid or something in football where you kind of just have to, like I said, yeah, be able to do most things at a decentish standard, especially when you're playing higher level. And I started just enjoying the gym stuff more than I actually enjoyed like the training in the rugby. So the training on the pitch I did enjoy, but I just loved being in the gym when we'd do endless watt bike conditioning sessions. We'd do yo-yo tests, the famous Broncos test, and I would usually win them, and by quite a good margin. And that's where I started to kind of discover I wanted to get into the fitness stuff and I wanted to test myself. Unfortunately, I went through quite a big period with my family going through, like I had my mom go through cancer and my dad go through cancer during this quite important stage of like my athletic career, like, trying to push on to be a professional rugby player. And it was quite a big kick to the teeth. And I think just during that, I probably had a bit of a period of, right, it was kind of self destruct. I just want to go test myself on crazy challenges. I had a bit of a period of going into down the Royal Marines route. So actually, completely out of the blue, never ever thought about doing this ever before. I just thought, right, what's the hardest thing I can do at this age? And then I just thought, right, let's go down that. Ended up doing like got past the interview, went to the PRMC, which is like a 3 day just getting beaten up down at the training center. And then I got onto training where they do the famous 32 weeks. I think I must have been 4, 5, maybe even 6 weeks into it. I can't remember off the top of my head. And I just loved the fizz. Absolutely loved like the smashing and like all the kind of stuff that we did. But I was very bad at like people shouted at me. I wasn't very good at the lack of sleep and all of that, which was a huge part of it. So I ended up having like serious doubts when I was in there. And I was like, I don't think this is the career for me. And my knee started giving me a bit of jiff at the time as well. And to be honest, it was a bit of a get out. I was like, right, my knee's not great. Do I really want to push this? And I just used it and ended up technically getting medically discharged, but I didn't want to be in. I knew I didn't want to be in, but it was kind of like, oh, I've got this. I can almost use it as an excuse kind of thing.
Mhm.
Now I look back at it, it was when I was like 18. It was a great experience. I actually can look at it as quite fondly now. I think for a couple of years past it, you kind of go, oh, I failed here, or I'm not mentally strong and I'm not mentally there. After going through all this with my family and stuff, I just wanted to prove I was hard as nails. And then now, like, I'm 26 now, like turned 27 this year, done all these cool charity challenges and things like that, and joined the CrossFit gym. I actually watched the Rich Froning documentary, the one way back in the day, and I just was like, I want to do that. I want to do that. I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know where I'm going to do it, but that looks like a bit of me. And then, I mean, here we are, like, what, 5, 6 years on from that, and HYROX came about, and feel like I'm doing my own mini Rich Froning in my own head in the HYROX world, which is, yeah, pretty cool.
Nice. I've got to ask before we move on. You said the famous Broncos test. Maybe I should know what that is, but I don't know. I dare say other people don't. So, can you explain that?
Yeah, so I mean, to some of the rugby listeners, they're going to know this for sure, or they should know this, unless they've called it a different name. So it's roughly a 5 minute running test, basically. So if you could, the gold standard is if you can break the 5 minute barrier. So you start from the try line, you run out to the 20, run back, run out to the 40, run back, run out to the 60, run back, and that's one. And you perform 5 of these as fast as you can, basically. And we used to do these like all the time over at Leicester, like in the scorching like heat as well. Like we'd have bags of ice buckets, like just so lads could just dunk their head in and just go crack on again. I remember the one time they started added in because it was like we do rugby conditioning. So they tried to get a bit of a contact feel to it. So you had to hit your chest and hit the deck every time you like hit a line instead of, just touching it with your foot. I remember like, me and this one lad kind of stretched out a little bit further, and I think we'd done a load of training before. They then just go put us on this test, and we're like 2 Broncos in, and every time he hit his chest on the deck, he's just throwing up on the line every time. And I'm like, I do not want to be near you throwing up because they're going to make us go again or something silly like that. Bang. And I've just tried to put the wheels down and yeah, make a bit of a break. But it was so much fun. Like preseason training over at Leicester Tigers was, I think Leicester were just quite renowned for being quite brutal, but that's what I actually really enjoyed because it was character building. Like you and the lads all suffering together. You kind of that was our initiations. We weren't going out drinking. We were kind of going and training hard together. So yeah, that's the famous Broncos test.
Nice. What happened with the rugby? Why are you still not doing that? Is it just because like the Marines and CrossFit and everything else just came into your life, or what?
Yeah, so I mean, I've had quite a few injuries from rugby. Main ones actually being like knockouts. So I've had quite a few head collisions during like playing rugby. I think 4 or 5 to be exact. And given my mum a few scares for sure. And I would say some of them aren't actually from rugby. The first time I fell out a tree, but that's probably another story. That was when I was really young, but it it just became like a thing. If you got injured, you then had to go do rehab for the next 6 to 8 weeks. I was quite prone to, like, going over my ankles, so both ATFL ligaments, I've completely snapped in both ankles, and then they'd fit someone else in your position straight away, and it was really hard to then get back in because, you're playing at that high level and it's everyone's good. Everyone's a good rugby player, and when I played, your local club rugby, then you play your county. I was kind of like maybe one of the best players there. So I always knew I could get back in. And then when I took that leap to go to Leicester Tigers, you're kind of playing against big dogs who are, been capped for England and stuff like that. We're 18-year-old lads and you're training on the same pitches as you've got Manu Tuolangi, who's literally over there smashing pads. And I'm thinking, I don't think this is gonna end well for me if I end up holding a bag for him. And even when I don't end up holding a bag for him and I've got to do the full Monty, it's like, oh, this is just physics. It's not gonna work well. I remember our first day when I turned up as how I would have been 17 or something, and we got weighed in every single day. So you get weighed in. I must have weighed in at 78 kilos. And I remember my mate who I was actually living with at the time, a guy called Harry, he got weighed in at about 73, 74 kilos, and they came over to him because we were both centres. And one of the S&C coaches just went, if you think you're going to be playing first team rugby at that, you better think again. And it was just, we just got told to eat everything we saw and just get lifting. And I mean, within 6 months, I went from 78 kilos to 95 kilos within 6 months. In those 6 months, I did get injured. So you're not doing as much running and conditioning. So I just got put on the beach weights in the gym. My legs were skinny as anything, and I just bench pressing more than I can back squat. I can probably still do that actually, but my legs are a little bit stronger now, doing a bit more HYROXy CrossFit conditioning and workouts. So it was a really good professional environment, and I really really enjoyed it. It was just, I think I just was a bit honest with myself, and I went, can I make a career from this, and can I earn money from it? Unfortunately, my dad was like one of my biggest supporters, and after 3 years of battling cancer, he's no longer with us anymore. And it's kind of like that was our thing to enjoy together. And I was 18 when he passed away, so I kind of just fell out of love with rugby. Slowly tried to find something else, and it was just, yeah, CrossFit. That kind of, I would say CrossFit probably saved my life, and then that kind of started the fitness challenges.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. Maybe I mean I want to talk to you about HYROX. Obviously, I want to talk to you about your 48 hours of burpees. I think you've done an Ironman as well.
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Uh, but well, maybe we'll start here. I wrote to Charlie Bottrell, who's been on this podcast, and I said, "Is there anything I should ask Ollie about?" And he said the main thing to talk to him about is his willingness to commit to anything for anyone, and why that's the case. Is that true? Do you feel like that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, 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 I would say so. I think I enjoy pressure. I enjoy pressure when I've got to perform for someone else. I think in the past when it's been like the pressure's just been on me to perform, I work probably better as an individual. But now I'm part of this theatre team with there's George, Travis, Charlie. Me and Charlie want to go on to do the London Pro doubles where, there's 3 spots up for the Elite 15. And Charlie's just gone, right, I want to do it with you. That puts me in a mindset of, well, I need to do everything in my power to not let him down. And that's probably come from like the rugby side of things because, you miss a tackle, they've scored a try. You just kind of let your team down. You got to put your body on the line. So it's definitely put me in a different position from, we you know what it's like. You go to training sessions and you might have written your own training session, and then you're looking at the end and you're like, oh, I'm flagging a bit now. I'll probably just skip off a set or something like that. And that's where I go, no, you're in that mindset. You're adding 2 more sets on now. because you're thinking that. No, I'm not saying from a coaching point of view, because I coach quite a few decent HYROXers as well. A plan is good, and if you're starting to like just beat yourself up for no apparent reason, you're going to be in a bit of a training defect. Something that I've learned quite a lot over doing crazy challenges and moving into the HYROX space. It's about being who can be the most consistently average over a long period of time rather than having these heroic training weeks.
Mhm.
The heroic training week, anyone can do. Like anyone can go and train 20, 25 hours, but then, the next 2 weeks, they're probably over in Tenerife, soaking up the sun, chilling out, or injured or something. But where it's been a bit of a different ball game for me is when you get to week 4, week 5, week 6, you're now 3 months in. It's like who's showing up still and who's getting the work done and who's doing the boring work. Like no one really wants to sit on a bike for 2, 3, 4 hours and just spin their legs at zone 2. But I know we're going to get some really good adaptations from that. And that's probably been the difference because I'm like, I know Charlie's going to do exactly the same for me. So I'm like, right, I need to go do the same, if not more.
Yeah, yeah. There's no doubt Charlie's going to do the work. That's, that's,
He's an absolute madman, and I love him. I think he's absolutely class. He's got a lot of potential in HYROX. If he plays his cards right, I think he's gonna be unstoppable.
yeah, yeah. What you were just saying actually so made me think of when I talked to Nick Bear and he's got his like go one more kind of mantra. And I asked him about that, and like it's easy to think of go one more as like do that extra in the session and everything like that, but there is a limit, right? And you've got to be able to show up the next day. And he sort of talked about the evolution of that and how sometimes go one more means not doing too much one day so that you can go one more the next day and you can show
Yeah,
up again the next day. And that consistency, I think, is very important, especially in HYROX.
definitely. I think with the rugby, like that is kind of like, yeah, you can go one more because the kind of training you're doing, it's like the efforts we were doing, it's not threshold, it's like your VO2 max, like pinging it. But because the energy systems are completely different,
Hmm.
I've seen it so much in like HYROX. People are doing threshold sessions. They're trying to run a certain pace. And I'm like, just bring your ego back slightly, run 10 seconds slower, because then you can go and do a very good session the next day instead of being absolutely battered. If you go run on a track, like we know what it's like running on a track, it's so intense. You go and run way too hard, you're just going to put yourself out for the next few days of no training. So, yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk about your 48 hours of burpees. Uh, so yeah, tell us about that, how that came about, and then what exactly it was.
Um, oh, I'm a big fan of Ross Edgley. I like reading his stuff. I like what he does. Big fan of like you've got a David Goggins, you've got a Russ Cook, the hardest geezer, but all these guys who do like these crazy feats. And I just kind of always thought I wanted to do something that was just big and that not many people have done, or something new, something weird and wacky. And at the back end of not last year, the year before, a good friend of my dad's who he played rugby with got diagnosed with MND, and he's a guy called Matt Gallagher. So they ended up setting up the Matt Gallagher Foundation. And me and my younger brother had toyed around doing like I was always asking my family, what can I do where no one's done and stuff like that. And for some reason, it was always a weird marathon. I don't know why. He was like, push a car a marathon. No, yeah, someone's done that. And he even said like something stupid like handstand marathon. I'm like, okay, yeah, I don't think I'll have any blood left. Like it'll be rushed to my head. We came up with some mad things, but we kind of went right. HYROX is about what kind of movement does everyone hate in that, or what movement is just crap, and you have to literally do it yourself. Like there's no pacing. You just have to go and do it. And we just went with the burpee broad jumps. So originally we were like, we'll do a burpee broad jump marathon. I just shot that over to Matt, went for a coffee with him. And I was like, mate, I don't know how this is going to get done or what kind of format or whether it's inside, outside, but we can raise a lot of money and do a cool thing for charity. I've not done anything for for a while, charity wise. I kind of like to do something like once a year, for like a charity. I've done for the NSPCC. I've done cancer research, and then now with the MND community. And yeah, it just kind of kicked off from there. Ended up getting Guinness involved because we were like, right, there must be some sort of record. No one's done this from what I've seen. I've seen people do 5K burpee board jumps on social media, so on Instagram, a couple guys maybe in America. Trav was actually going for the burpee mile, which he absolutely smashed. And I was like, "This is quite cool. Trav, you do the mile, and I'll go do the crazy long one." And we were kind of doing it at the same time. So I definitely couldn't do it at his pace, but I was like, I think I can move for however long. And yeah, just training. I got involved with the Red On guys, who you got Mike Chadwick and quite a few cool people over there who are up in Liverpool. They're all ex-military, and they loved the idea as well. So I got involved with them, and we just started pulling it together. Guinness came back to us and actually said they don't really do it on distance. They do it on like how many can you accumulate in time, or like the distance you can get in a time frame. And they literally went from like you've got a minute to an hour to right up to a month. And I was like, well, I don't think anyone's going to want to hang around for a month. Then there was a week. I was like, "Ugh, that will be quite hard to, because you got to film it and everything." And that is like the challenge is the standards they give you Guinness are quite brutal, but you kind of understand it as well because it's meant to be a proper record. So we were like, right, I don't think the marathon's going to get done in 48 hours. It probably would be able to get done in a week, but are people going to want to hang around for that? And that will be like just a logistical nightmare. So we went, right, 24 hours, too short, 48 hours. Boom, let's go with that. And we could do it over the weekend where the local rugby club my dad's bench is up at as well. So we kind of made it like quite a nice thing. We brought my dad's bench over to the little dead ball area at the back of the rugby pitch. So we had the first team playing. And while I was doing burpees around the dead ball area, loads of fans come in for that, like all the locals and stuff. And then the following day on the Sunday was the Mini and Juniors Rugby Festival as well. So I started midday Friday, finished midday Sunday. So I pretty much had people there like with me the whole time. It was quite nice to see like the Mini and Juniors on the Sunday, because that's what I got to experience with like my dad when I played rugby at a young age. And it got a bit emotional because I was like, he's not here, but he is kind of here. We've got his bench there, and Matt used to play with my dad, and they all stopped playing rugby, and I ended up having like 10 kids doing burpee board jumps alongside me when they're meant to be playing like a Mini and Juniors game. And they just become it was just a fun 48 hours. There were moments that were pretty horrific, like my elbows falling to pieces, and I didn't realize how cold it would get on the evenings. And yeah, that was just a bit of a challenge, but it probably became fueling it was quite challenging. I've done Ironmans, I've done back-to-back ultra marathons and stuff. Fueling those are a little bit easier because your stomach's not like jumping up and down as much as doing a burpee. Like you're literally flopping onto the floor onto your stomach and then jumping forward. So after 12 hours, my stomach was like a washing machine. I couldn't take in anything. So it became salty pretzels and cups of tea. And that's all I had after the 12-hour mark. And I just was like, that is all I want. If I have anything else, I am probably going to throw up or shit myself. I don't know what's going to happen. I
Wow. Okay. And what sort of distance did you cover in 48 hours in the end?
think we did 13 kilometers in the end. 13 kilometers. It was so hard to honestly logistically manage it. So when I was training for it, I'd literally go into my CrossFit gym, set an hour up, and I'd be like, right, I'm just going to do an hour of burpee board jumps, put some music on, and I'd just move. I'm quite good at kind of getting into a bit of a rhythm. People go, "Oh, that sounds horrendous." I think once you've done Ironmans and stuff like that, you break it up really well. So you break it up into feeding windows. So I know every 10, 15 minutes, boom, stop, grab a drink, have some electrolytes. If you're outside, hot day, cool. That's 10, 15 minutes, tick, straight off. At the 25, 30-minute mark, go grab a gel, go grab an energy bar, boom, tick. And I'm like, I'm already halfway. And I just broke it up like that. So once I'd done an hour, I then did 2 hours, and then I would go up to the rugby club. I did one big session before where I did 5 kilometers going around the full rugby pitch on the second team pitch. The boys came and set me off early doors in the morning, and then they just left me, and I was just on my own for it was 8 hours, and then they came back for the last hour. I remember getting home that night. I'd done ticked off the 5 kilometers. I think my mum came up at lunchtime and brought me pizza. And the only other person at the rugby pitch was the groundsman, but he'd been told there's going to be this guy doing something weird around the pitches. So apologies if he makes a mess of your nice pitch. But he came over. The one time he actually came over and he put a load of like fertilizer down, and I didn't know. And I was like, why is it wet? He came over. He said, mate, I'd probably go onto that pitch because you don't want to wake up with two heads. And I've put loads of fertilizer down. I was like, yeah, thank you for telling me that. I don't want to be inhaling or sucking all this up into into my system. So yeah, that was an eye opener when I did the 5K burpee broad jump. So I've always just made a thing. If I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it properly. So I would actually, even if nobody was there, I would know the rep myself, and I'd go back. If I did something, even if it was just a little bit poor, I'd go back and just do it because I just know mentally in my head, I'm like, you've done this properly. Like you've not cut any single corners. Where
Mm.
back in the past, I probably would have done a dodgy jump or done one where, we'll see it. People put their hands a bit further forward than they should be. I probably would have gone, it's all right. I'll get the next one right. No, I'm doing this properly. Go back, get it done. So I knew in my head once I'd done the 5K, I'm like, I've done this like, to the T. And I went back that night and I was in a hole. My wrists were completely annihilated. And I was saying to Jess, my girlfriend, I was like, I think I've bitten off a bit more than I can chew here. I don't know if I can actually do it. And she just calmed me down. And I didn't get out of, I knew it was going to be challenging. And I think you're a bit stupid if you didn't think it's going to be challenging. But I kind of went, oh my God, am I going to actually injure myself? Because I do want to continue, competing and doing things after this. Am I going to cause long-term damage? But then fortunately, I woke up the next day and my wrists were just back to normal. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be okay. It's all right. And I just made sure training was very specific into getting lots of like wrist strength in, like doing loads of like hand release push-ups, depth drop push-ups, dips, like tricep extensions, shoulder health work. Just went very specific into just looking at what is being used here, what is going to end up going first. And each time I did a long burpee broad jump session, it was something different every time. So I was like, the first time I did it, my hips were hurting. But then once I kind of like went, right, cool, need to make sure that that doesn't happen again. And the next time it was my wrist. And I was like, cool, boom, make sure that doesn't happen again. And then on the actual time I did the 48 hours, my elbows, it wasn't necessarily on the way pushing up, it was coming down. So I was almost headbutting the floor. 'Cause
Mhm.
I didn't want to put any pressure on my hand. So I'd be like, this is gonna hurt. Bang. Just smack my head on the floor. So I'd had mud just everywhere. But yeah, it's funny how you can make an exercise look very stupid. But yeah, we managed it.
Amazing, amazing. Well done. Is there, this is maybe a silly question, but having done thousands now of burpee broad jumps, is there anything that you learned from it that maybe you now apply to a HYROX race or your HYROX training for burpees, or not, just because the distance is so different?
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a great question. And yes, I think I heard Matt Fraser say a quote, you do something 1,000 times, you're going to get pretty good at it. And I was like, no, that's repetition. Like that's just doing the basics right. If you do a movement over and over, you're going to get quite good at it. Like you're going to get the movement pattern in, but then you're also going to understand your pacing on it as well. So I
Mm,
found that with running quite recently. I knew running was my kind of weak point in high rocks. I was a strong runner in CrossFit, but then you go to a high rocks, you see the level of people there. So I've been working on my running loads. I probably could go to a high rocks and just run with my watch off. I would know exactly what pace I'm running. I know where my heart rate would be. I know exactly how it should feel. I know my cadence on my running. I know if I want to overstretch, if I need to, like, I just have a good feel of it. And it's just probably given me a bit more body awareness and understanding of, especially the burpee exercise in high rocks. You can butcher it. It's now become such a fast event. Like the level is just is crazy, and it's only getting better because it's in its baby
Hmm.
phase, really, isn't it? And I remember with CrossFit, you know, you'd have a workout like Fran, 21:15:9 thrusters and pull-ups to break the 3 minute mark back in the day. That was like elite gold standard. But now you've probably got 10 to 15, maybe even 20 of your local gym who can go under 3 minutes in Fran. And that's the level because people just find more efficient ways of doing it. So I think that's just going to be the same with high rocks. People are just going to be doing more and more of racing, trying to get, I call it match fit. If you played a lot of matches in rugby, you kind of were in the rhythm of it. Like, I think there's obviously a certain level. You've obviously got Charlie Botterill who does God knows how many races in a weekend. But I also look at his training and I go, he trains high volume. Like he can actually go and do these things and recover well. I would do a men's pro high rocks. I remember racing Glasgow a while back and I came third overall in it in the men's pro. Ran my PB time. It was like 61 and a half, but I was battered for at least a week after it. Then I've gone to Malaga. When was Malaga? A couple of weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago. Ran like I did a full training week leading into it. My legs were quite sore, but I ran my PB, just went under 59 minutes in the men's pro. And then I ran under 51 minutes in the open doubles with Dan Nota the next day. And my body was fine. I was thinking, literally, like a year and a half ago, I would have been absolutely battered. I would just put it down to everyone's just figuring out the best way to train for it now. And I think you're looking at high rocks. I think it's very similar to the 70.3 kind of volume with Ironman, the half Ironman distance, the kind of volume they're putting in, like, you know, advanced to elite level. It's a bit different training. Obviously, we probably do a bit more strength training, but I look at it and I go, you see like a Lionel Sanders, they put in like really big volume, but because they're very consistent at it and they very rarely go into zone 5 VO2 max, there's zone 2, zone 3, zone 4, and they work within like the proper like energy systems. You can train so much at that if you know your body well. I think if you can get yourself like a really good coach to start off with, who can just teach you the methods of how to train consistently. I got told a really good quote. If you're consistently average over a long period of time, you'll occasionally be great. And I say it to all of my athletes, and that's what I just try and continue doing. So if I'm in a interval running session, everyone gets to the last set and they try and absolutely send it and run 30 seconds quicker than the other ones. And I'm thinking, what have you actually gained in doing that? Is that
Hmm.
just mental clarity? Because I don't think you're going to get much physiological adaptations from just that one set. But what you might have done is, oh, now you've hurt your calf or Achilles, and now tomorrow you can't run because that last set you went a bit too hard. So yeah, that's yeah, roughly where I'm at with HYROX training. And I'm still trying to figure it out. Like from when I did the first one in Birmingham, well, it must have been 3, 4 years ago now. It's my training's gone like this. There's so many different things, but I feel like it's coming into yeah, it's good kind of state at the minute.
Yeah, it comes back to that, like being able to get up and do it again the following day,
Yeah.
like we talked about earlier. And we've had Steve Magnus on here and Dan Plews, and they both sort of touched on like the real secret is the consistency over time. And there's lots of different ways to train, but being able to sort of stay in the game and do it consistently over time, day over day, is probably the real secret. And that's how you find out what you're capable of, really.
Definitely. I say to all my athletes, look at the Olympic athletes. Their macro cycle is a 4 year cycle.
Hmm.
They train for 4 years. And I'm like, some people will go, oh, I want to go do this high rocks in 8 weeks. Well, just set your expectations right. Like, if you imagine like how much you could do in 6 months. Then you go, right, what can you do in 12 months? What can you do in like 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? And now because HYROX is becoming quite popular, like it's going to be around for ages now. Like it's still peaking and it's still going. Like CrossFit went for ages. And I do think like at some point it will have a bit of a plateau, or another event will come out or something like that. But while it's going, like what I try and say to like Charlie and stuff like that, you've got such a good opportunity to like, and any girls or any guys who are like wanting to, break into world champs and things like that. I've got some guys in RPT who have qualified and just said, if I can give any advice, being patient is probably what I wish somebody told me. Just be patient and just knuckle down and just keep doing the average thing, because most people stop doing it because they either get bored or they just don't see progress quick enough. And unfortunately, that's elite level sports. If you don't see progress within 12 weeks, it doesn't mean you stop it and go to the next thing over here. Everyone likes to go change their goals very often because they get that satisfaction of like feeling elite for that little period and
Mm,
feeling like, oh, I've just progressed loads. But what about if you don't progress or you don't have a race in like 3 weeks? Can you just set your mind and go, right, my A race is in 12 months,
mm,
but everyone needs to fill the gap and go, oh, I need to do a 5K parkour and I need to go do that. I need to go do that. I've been there as well. But when I'm like, I'm very much, I'm staying in this high rocks for, the next 3, 4, 5 years. I just want to see what I can do, whether that's running a fast men's pro time, going for a doubles, whatever it is. Like, I now know if I just stick at it, you'll get people who just go, "Oh, I'm done. I don't want to keep sticking at it." And unfortunately, it is just a bit of a consistent game.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's an interesting like thought experiment, if you like if your goal is to run the fastest possible HYROX in 2 years' time, for example, like how does that change what you're doing today? I think that's probably like an interesting thing to think about. Like, would you be doing like sessions this intense, or would you be entering this race and things like that? It's probably worth thinking about.
It's
Yeah.
probably why like a lot of cyclists are doing well, because if you look at elite level cyclists, I always butcher his name. You've got the Tour de France winner, Tadej Pogacar, or whatever his name is. Like, I saw him on a podcast and he's like, I spend 90% of my time, aerobic
Hmm.
training, like zone one, zone two, 10% of it hitting threshold VO2 max. He's doing a lot of volume, but you think of the adaptations that he's getting. That's probably why he's like one of the best, and he's just playing the patient game. I've seen like quite a few cyclists. Like I know Charlie's an ex-cyclist. You got Tony Revel, who's also
Hmm.
ex-cyclist. Good pals with him. Like they've just got good volume. Like they've got such good lower body muscular endurance, but good conditioning as well. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I've done a lot of biking in the past, but I'm still keeping it up now because I'm like, actually, yes, I have done the Ironmans, but I think that can really benefit doing all this stuff as well because it's less ground and pound. So with people who struggle with injuries with running, I'm definitely one of them. If I go 70, 80 kilometers a week running, I know there's going to be issues. I'm going to start feeling like something's about to snap. And maybe because I'm a little bit on the heavier end, but utilizing the bike has been huge. Like I probably run 3 times a week, maybe pushing 4, but getting on the bike another 3 times, you're just upping your volume and upping your lower body endurance. I don't know if there's people that mainly just do biking, but a story I tell my guys is when I was building up to, I think it was the Las Vegas World Champs, and it was very like High Rocks wasn't as popular as like back then as it is now. But I qualified in my first race in Birmingham in the under 24s, and again, I've literally explained like I was that guy who just tried to do everything. I've tried running 6 marathons back to back for a charity. On the third one, my foot was just in all kinds of gifs. So then I rode the next 2 marathons and then half biked and half ran the last one. Raised a load of money, but I, in the means of that, the back end of it, I was injured. I just went straight to like, right, put my foot in a boot. I did one-legged rowing, one-legged ski erg, one-legged assault bike, one-legged wall balls. I was doing everything in my power just to make sure, I could still train. I've still got like 3 other limbs to work here. And then before I got to the Las Vegas World Champs, I think I managed like 2 running sessions on a curve runner just to try and take the impact out because my foot was it just wasn't good. And I went and came second at World Champs at under 24s. Yes, I think I ran it in like 68 minutes, and coming second with 68 minutes now, it wouldn't even get you probably in the top 50, which is absolutely bonkers.
The good old
But
days.
yeah, exactly. But I kind of looked at it. I just went, hey, you can train the energy systems just as much as the real specific stuff that you need to get in. I think a lot of people probably go a little bit too specific too soon when, to be honest, I don't do too much high rock specific conditioning until probably talking like the last couple months going into it. I just do
Mhm.
my running sessions to get faster because I know to get better at running, I don't want to start adding a load of sled pushing or sled pulling. To get better at running, you go and run. Just go and run and go and become a better runner. Because if you want to run a sub 4 minute pace in a high rocks, but you can't even just about run it in your interval sessions, you're not going to run it in a high rocks. So you need to get that like 20, 30, 40 seconds quicker in your normal running interval sessions when they're solo running sessions. So then it can become like a sub 4 minute in a high rocks. And that's, I think, I think people just maybe see stuff on Instagram and go, oh, that looks like a really fun workout. But there's like 5, 10 exercises in there. I'm like, are you just training or exercising? And training is trying to get better at like the individual stuff and like the sport and really trying to manipulate your training to get better. Exercising is I'm just going to throw a random workout together and just go and perform it and just get fit. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, that's going to get you to be able to complete a high rocks. But if you want to compete in it to a higher level, you've got to break it down and you've got to really work within your weaknesses and your strengths so you can see the benefits of it.
Yeah. You you mentioned earlier that you ran your PB in Malaga a few weeks ago, sub 59. Um, and I was going to ask you, like, was there anything that you feel in your training you changed that led to that improvement, that led to that PB, or is it just a result of the consistency over time and the specificity and everything like that we've talked about?
Both. Yeah. It was definitely both. I think I was definitely more consistent. But I changed my training slightly to get more volume in and doing a lot more on the bike. Um, Loads on the row. I think the row machine has such a great crossover because it's low impact. You're literally pushing with your legs and pulling with your arms. You can change the damper setting to go higher, get more of a kind of muscular kind of session in, or lower to get a bit more of a conditioning session in. You can change sets like intensities, volumes. I just did loads of off feet conditioning. With zone 2 and threshold work, and then still continuing with my running. And I just found myself, I dropped a few kilos, just kind of watched what I was eating ever so slightly because I'm a bit of a big eater. I think that's probably from my rugby days of just being told you need to put weight on. It's a little bit different now for the high rocks, but yeah, I'd just say the volume, just doing the 10 times 500 on the row machine, like 60 seconds rest in between. You just hold your paces. I don't even change the session. I'm like, you do that for 6 weeks. The session changes within the session. So I wasn't doing exactly 10 by 500. I did one session where it was 3 times 500 on the row, but only 30 seconds rest in between. So I was trying to limit my rest to see how I would like cope with that. 30 seconds ain't fun on a rest. It just goes like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Then after the third one, I gave myself 2 minutes and then I did 3 rounds through that. And I did that session for 4 weeks, the same session, but it was a different session because I was pulling faster each week. I think I started off at like 140, 141. The next session I did was 139. The next session I did was 138. I was like, this is actually turning into a different session technically because I'm rowing faster. It was just being really consistent and not changing my training program. I just went, right, that's the format. This is what I want out of it. And just stay on course. I didn't change any workouts. I knew what I wanted to get better at. At the end of some of my sessions, I was like, right, my wall balls used to be good at CrossFit, but now they're not so good. Right. 5 times. I've done one today with George, 5 times, 30 reps at 12 kilos, 30 seconds rest in between, go. And then I've all of a sudden taken 45 seconds off my wall ball time. I'm like, if you just train the thing individually, I think you will get better at it. I think it's when you just try and make these crazy workouts. I probably very rarely put in any more than if I'm doing like a, let's say, a HYROX specific conditioning workout. I very rarely put in more than three of the stations in. It's usually just two, because I'm like, if I start going too much, am I actually getting better at any of them, or am I just getting better at doing high rocks, if that makes
Hmm.
sense?
Hmm. Hmm. You mentioned there, I was going to ask you about your wall balls actually, but you mentioned that you used the 12 kilogram ball. And personally, I found actually when I go heavier with wall balls, it helps a lot in the race. And that I wouldn't necessarily say that applies to all the stations in HYROX, like going heavier. I feel like going heavier with the wall ball in particular is helpful. Would you agree with that? And do you mainly
Definitely.
do use the 12 kilogram ball for your wall
Yeah,
ball training?
definitely. When I was back in the CrossFit days, I just made when once I got comfortable with the 9, I'm like, well, progressive overload, you've got to train harder. You've got to change something. If you keep doing the same thing, you're just going to stay the same. So train harder so you can play easier. So when I was at CrossFit Solihull, I just made it a thing where, right, every single workout, even if RX says 9 kilos, you pick up that 12 and you go for it. And then we even had a 14 kilo wall ball over at CrossFit. So occasionally, if it was a smaller workout, I'd go like have a little play around with the 14. Um, yeah, big believer in that. I don't do lunging with the sandbags, but my lunging in the sandbags is probably one of my best ones, especially when me and the boys do the relay. Like that's my kind of station. And I think that's where I can make up a lot of time, but I don't do any lunging. I do very heavy Bulgarians and front rack reverse lunging and just single leg work, which has like helped with that. I put up a post on my Instagram saying, if you can lunge your body weight plus some, you're probably going to be able to lunge the 20, 30 kilo sandbag pretty well. Um, and I think tying that in with like cycling, where you are, if you're cycling uphill is a different beast. Like running uphill is tough, but cycling uphill, it is just pure like gas on your quads. And I think just accumulation from doing heavy strength training with the endurance side of things, with the cycling and, all of that, it's just, yeah, helped loads. And yeah, like you said, it's not the same with every station. But I think definitely with wall balls and what I found with lunges, I think it's yeah, definitely helped.
Okay, interesting. I went to ask you about your relay. So you're part of the men's relay world record holders in a very impressive time. What's that? So you did lunges. What was your other leg?
I was sled pull and lunges. When we first originally did it, is literally when we first all met each other, the London one a year or two ago. I was sled push and lunges. Um, Charlie has always been on the ergs. Travis was always going to be burpees, and he wasn't going to do the wall balls, but him and George changed last minute, so he did the wall balls, and we're quite grateful that he did. And then George did the sled pull and the farmer's carry, and I think we got the, let's call it, the British record at that. And then I think we quickly realized, right, I'm probably the better one to do the sled pull, and George is better off doing the sled push. And we've just never changed since. And we just, whether people call it like that's, I don't think I'm exceptional at sled pull. I just know on the lunging, like if someone's in front of me, I'm like, I just had the thing of, I'm going to get past you. I just know I'm going to just blitz it, try and put the hammer down, and just hang on for dear life. I don't think there's much. I've had people message me about the lunges because in Manchester, we probably went into the lunges third, I think, and then I overtook the two guys in front, and then tagged Trav, and he went and got the job finished for us. There's not really much technique to it. My knees do not like me at all. Smashing into the ground. But I mean, when we kind of thought, oh, it'd be funny if we got the world record, and then we were over in Poznan, and we were honestly like, I think there was two other teams that were there, they were ginormous, like absolute juggernauts, and we're close with one of the teams now. And we thought, Jesus Christ, these guys are massive. I remember getting to the sled pull. One of the lads called Speaky, he's just hand over hand on the sled pull, like all the four lengths. I'm thinking, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that. There's no way. So we were like third place all the way through. And then we just slowly started like creeping. I'm thinking, God, we're actually going to do all right here. And I managed to creep up a bit on the lunges, tag Trav, and they were very good runners. I'm thinking, no, we've not got it. But then Trav's rep speed on the wall balls, he's got such a bizarre technique. But I mean, he's hitting full depth and he's hitting the target. I'm like, tell me any other rules where that's not allowed. I'm like, he's technically doing exactly what he's being asked. Yes, if he goes up onto his toes a bit, but I don't know if anyone else has tried doing a 1K all out effort into 100 wall balls. You're going to be like Bambi. You're not going to be exactly solid to the ground. So he ended up, yeah, his rep speed just got him past the lads. We crossed the line and we're like, oh, we should definitely go for that again. We just had so much fun. And it was, I think people enjoyed watching probably the relay more than watching like the solos and the doubles. So then when Manchester, the Friday night one came out, that's probably the most nervous I've ever been. It was like so nerve wracking. Like we knew Tony was doing it. Jeremy was there. A few other like big names who we knew like were quick lads. I just said to the boys, I was like, we just go run our own race and just go put it down and just see what happens. And again, I think we were fifth, third, like all the way through until like I got to the lunges, managed to then bridge that gap. And I knew Trav was going to hold on and throw a good wall ball. And then, yeah, we ended up breaking the world record again. I think a few other teams have gone quite like similar time quite recently. And you know how it is with the HYROX as well. Every course is different. So
Oh, yeah.
I do believe like if you're going to say you've got the world record, I think it's best like the other team, you go race them, like actually like, you know, race them on a course where you can go, yes, they are, you know, the world record holders and they've just gone and beat these guys. So yeah, I think we want to do it again and we'll try and figure out where the cool place will be to go do it. I think we were looking at Cardiff, but I'm not too sure they've actually brought out a relay race for that one. So
Okay.
they might release it late. So yeah, the four of us might have another little crack.
Okay, nice. So it's for anyone wondering, it was 47:23 was your finishing time, which is amazing.
Boys own
I wanted to
23.
ask, like you four are all obviously amazing athletes, but you're not at the moment elite. Like there's been teams of elites that have tried to get together and crack this record and not been able to do it. What do you feel separates you guys? Is that because even like yourself, you say like it was my running that I needed to work on. Well, you think of like this relay as being like very much lined up for runners, you know, just being able to grind out a kilometer at a crazy pace. So what is it you think about you four that has brought you together to be able to go so fast?
I do actually think, even though it is the relay and it is pretty much flat out, there's a slight pacing strategy to it. Like there is a little bit to it. I think because we've done it a few times, we know how it feels, and I think that's quite a scary thing to know as well because it is not an enjoyable experience. It's like tasting blood. Every time I've tagged, I think I actually tagged Trav each time. Actually, I collapsed to the floor, like I'm absolutely done. But then you've got to go again. So I think what happened when we were over in Manchester, some of the teams went so hard in their first leg and they probably didn't realize how when you split it, me and the lads have it so we can have equal amount of rest.
Mhm.
So we're not doing run ski and then sled pull. Like we've all got equal amount of rest. So that probably plays quite a good role in it. It is just an all out effort. I wasn't doing it for me. You kind of again, you think about your teammates, and we're all quite a weird bunch of lads. So I remember on the lunges right at the end, as I'm overtaking these lads, George is just screaming at me, like hurling abuse, like swearing, effing and jeffing. But I love that. Like that's my kind of like I'm like just from the rugby days, that's just how we were. Everyone's looking at him thinking, that's not nice. Like don't say that to people. And we just bark at each other. We know we're doing it for each other. I think because there's become a bit more like of we're doing it for the brand now, and we're trying to like we are just genuinely regular lads. Like I've done nothing like crazy or exceptional. I'm not genetically gifted. The same with the other lads. I think we've just grafted, and we've just put in hours of work, and we kind of thought, well, all that work we don't want to waste on this one moment. That one moment you've got to shine, it's just go. You can't even think about it. So it is just full hammer. And even if we didn't get the record, I know we would have gone up to the other teams, and we had a good chat with them after. And that's why I enjoy competing. And in rugby, we'd have a dust up with a team. Like I remember in training with your own teammates, you're knocking the crap out of each other. I remember a couple of times you end up in a punch up, but then straight after you're best mates. And I think with I'm not saying that happens in a HYROX, but I think what's quite nice is there is a lot of good friendly competition in there as well, which is so healthy. Like I see other people train and I'm like, God, he's training like a savage. Like I need to go and do the same thing. But there's no remorse or no bad energy towards it. I just want to go and put the hammer down. So I know this weekend, me and Trav are going to be racing against each other in Warsaw in the men's pro. We both want to beat each other, but I know we're going to have like a real good laugh while we're doing it. And regardless, say if he wins or I win, we're going to be best mates still at the end of it. And we're going to go and congratulate that other person for doing it. But then the other person is going to say, I'm coming for you now.
Awesome, love it. You we sort of touched on the relay and how it's horrible doing it, and like you've got to go to dark places. Where does your mind go to help you at times like that? And during the high rocks, like, does your mind go anywhere to help you?
On my first HYROX, that's a good question. On my first HYROX, I had no clue what I was doing. I went out like an absolute rocket and just died, but managed to hang on. I remember one of the old boys from the CrossFit gym came to watch, and I'm towards the end now, and he just literally said such simple words, but he just said, "You've been here before," and just that comment, I got like the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I felt like I had my dad there watching me, and then like all these hard things I've been through. I'm like, as soon as I feel slight like resistance in a high rocks, the first thing I do is smile
Mhm.
because I've asked for this. Like I want this. And I smile and I think, what a great opportunity I get to overcome something. I had it in Malaga. I was, you're hurting, you're trying to chase down the guy in front of you. And all I did was smile. I just smiled. And George was like, I saw you smile a couple of times. And even on the rowing machine, we were talking back and forward. And it just kind of brought my perceived effort down slightly. And there are studies to show that, by just laughing or by smiling. I read a really good book called Endure by Alex Hutchinson. And it's all about endurance and the mental side of it, but also like, all the training and stuff like that. But there was a study basically saying, the people that took the piss out of themselves and had a laugh and had a joke, they were the ones who actually did far better in all the endurance racing rather than the people who sat in the hole, but then felt sorry for themselves. And then they were like kind of going through their mind, going, I can't do this. Can't, well, have a bit of a laugh, have a bit of a joke. And yeah, that's my kind of mindset towards it. I've been through much worse with my family. I've watched my dad and mum go through horrendous like cancer treatment and unfortunately losing my dad. And I know you've got Sean Noble who's in the Elite 15, and you were actually interviewing him after the his Elite 15. Where was it again? You were over
Glasgow.
in Glasgow. I related to that so much. I
Mhm.
actually really kind of enjoyed listening to him say, like, I think some people maybe don't understand it because they've not been through something like as as crazy as he's had. But he was mentioning, I think he said the one story about his dad. They're on a beach, and he's having to crawl back to them or something like that. I was like, I know exactly what you're on about, and I full respect to you for it. You kind of go, I've seen bad, and even that's not bad. We're so lucky, and I've got a roof over my head. I kind of go to all that kind of stuff, and yeah, definitely, it kicks you on and puts things in perspective.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You mentioned Alex Hutchinson. I'll just say that this episode is the one going out. I've spoken to Alex. So that's your podcast, your episode will be the one after Alex Hutchinson
Oh,
is. So
awesome! Oh,
yeah, yeah,
wicked.
yeah,
How
yeah,
did
yeah.
that conversation go?
Great, great. I loved it. I've wanted him on for a long, long time. To be fair, ever since reading Endure. So it was a bit of a bucket list episode, and he's got a new book out now. So yeah, I got to talk to him and loved it.
He's
Yeah,
he's more recently talking about outdoor adventure stuff, isn't he? And like the
it's
outdoors.
a book called The Explorer's Gene. So it's kind of like why we explore and why we want to push ourselves and why we want to do things like HYROX and things like that. So he's gone from Endure, which is like the science of endurance and everything like that, to more about like why we want to do that and why we want to push ourselves and explore and everything. So yeah,
Yeah, what
yeah,
that is one of the best books I've read.
yeah,
Endure.
yeah,
It was absolutely fantastic. That and Ross Edgley's The Art of Resilience, when he
mm-hmm.
writing about him doing the swim around
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
Britain. That's another really cool book because he talks about like Greek philosophy and all of that, the Stoic and like all that kind of
Stoic
stuff.
sports science, like calls it, doesn't he? Yeah,
That's it, yeah, and I'm like, I really like this because it gives you some real cool one-liners that can just sit with you, and when you go through, a challenging experience in your athletic career, you just these little one-liners they're literally little golden nuggets, aren't they? That can, like,
yeah,
get you out of a bit of a hole, especially when you're, mid-high rocks.
yeah, yeah, 100%. This has been brilliant, brilliant chat. Thank you so much. Is there anything else I should have asked you? And also, if people want to follow you, find out more about you, where should they go?
No, I think we've probably covered everything. But yeah, I'm most active on social media with Instagram, Russell Performance Training, the Theta page, George, Trav, Charlie. I'm usually doing something stupid. We're all singing car karaoke on their Instagram. So yeah, I'm also, if anyone does have any questions, my DMs are always open. Happy to help out with any bits and bobs.
Okay, nice. And is London next for you? Is it with Charlie?
London's the big one. That's the one I'm trying to peak for. But I've got this weekend where I'm
Of
doing
course.
the men's pro on the Saturday over in, is it Warsaw? Yeah, it's Warsaw. And then doing the mixed doubles the day after. So because when I go to Chicago, I've got 3 races that I've qualified for. So I'm trying to do a bit of a Charlie Botterill and accumulate a bit of race mileage under my belt so I'm not absolutely battered. So yeah, that's all I've got. But yeah, looking forward to them.
Okay, nice. All right. Well, good luck for those. Thank you for this, and I'll talk to you again soon.
Awesome, mate. Appreciate it.